I'm going to have my little notes here and kind of glance at them a little bit, try to read them since I don't have one of those big fancy teleprompters here, okay?
Or, will it very often if I take pictures? That's actually your job. She's doing it.
Just as long as you make sure I have a cute neat one.
Oh, like we can stop that.
Yeah, seriously. It's kind of hard to,
So what I'm going to talk to you about today is I have 4 points to teach you. Fortune is in the follow-up, and gratitude comes back tenfold. Now granted, I could go into both of these a whole lot more than I'm going to tonight, but I'm just going to tell you just a little bit about each thing just to give you some little taste. So you might want to take a few notes. And so one of the things is I've been in my business for almost 10 years. I've been in the network marketing industry for 26 years. I've been known as the queen of follow-up. And after meetings, I always follow up with people, always by email, usually within the first 24 hours or at most 72 hours. And then also by a card or by mail, somehow by mail. So you want to say things like, nice to meet you. You meet somebody out somewhere, send them a card or a note that says, hey, nice to meet you, or even an email, but send them something. So how many of you have ever worked one of those booth things at one of your companies, and then all those people came by and they put their business cards in your fishbowl, for your grand prize or whatever, and then you didn't follow up with some of those people in the fishbowl? Anybody? Or how many of you have ever been to a booth thing and you were actually interested in something that they were selling, and you filled out their little form, and you might want to win the contest or whatever that they're doing, but then you were actually interested in whatever they were selling, and they never followed up with you. So here's a little story. I went to an event about a year and a half ago, and that's it. There was a booth there that sold all natural dog food. I have a little puppy mastiff, and before that I had a boxer that we had almost 13 years. And I'm very much one of those people that I feed my kids as well as my dog very good food. And so I don't buy that food from, the other stores. And so I was very interested. I filled out their form. They gave me a little sample packet. I took it home to have my dog see if he liked it. And I was interested. I got out their business card. I kept it aside from all the other booths that I went to that day. Went online, spent about $100 on just dog food, and fed my dog it, and it was really good. But in that process, I was cleaning up my desk and doing a lot of things, and I lost their information. I never got an email. I never got a phone call. I never got a letter. Never got a card. Nothing. Now, I have a puppy mastiff. She eats a lot of food. I would have been one of their very good, consistent customers monthly if they'd have just followed up. Instead, now PetSmart gets my business still. So, it's just something to think about, So you want to always thank your clients and customers. They could do business with anybody else, right? It's a Google world out there. People can go on and Google. They can find whatever you're selling, whatever product or whatever service you're offering, and people can find it for the same price or even cheaper, right? And so why should people buy from you? People don't buy from you just because what you're selling. They buy from you because you're you. So you need to stand out from the crowd, and you need to make a difference. You need to thank them. Whatever you sold or sell, you're probably going to make around $1 or more commission, right? So send them something telling them thank you. And at least by email. But the mail is always great too. How many of you have ever heard of Tom Hopkins? Tom Hopkins set a goal to send out 10 thank you cards a day. So with that meant if he and his business had 2 sales in that day, he'd have to come up with 8 other ways to send people thank you cards, right? So he would either meet somebody new and send them a nice to meet you and thank you for your time, or he would have to talk on the phone to somebody and say thank you for your time. He would have to find those reasons. But he did that, and within 3 years, he was making 6 figures, and his business was over 100% referrals. Nothing but referrals. And with that, his customers and his clients, not only did they come back and do more business with him, but they gave him more referrals because they felt appreciated. You know, when he sent them cards and sent them letters and kept in touch. And so also just follow up with people. You know, that is one of the biggest things. Because they said no today doesn't mean no forever. So make sure you don't burn that bridge. You know, sometimes you think, oh, I've got to get this person, you know, my mortgage payment is due next week and I've got to make it, so I've got to get somebody, and they've got to say yes. They just have to, right? And so you want to be careful to not put dollar signs on top of people's heads. It's okay if they say no. You know, the more no's you get, the closer you are to a yes, right? So try to get as many no's as you can. But also don't burn those bridges, because just because they say no today doesn't mean that they'll say no next week or next year or in a couple years from now. In my business, I have 2 different really good friends of mine that are very successful. One owns a chiropractic and massage therapy business in Texas. Very affluent business, very good, very high, top class business. Another friend of mine is a bankruptcy attorney, and her husband's a judge. Both are, you know, all of those are very affluent people in their industries. And I presented my business to them, and 5 years later, I got a phone call from both of these ladies. And these ladies are totally separate, totally 2 different scenarios. But they both called me in my 5th year in business to sign up with me. And you know why? Because I didn't go when they said no, and I still kept in touch with them. They were still my friends, you know, and I just kept in touch with them and followed up with them also. You know, you can still, even though they say no, you can still send them more information. You know, you don't want to hound them, you don't want to throw up on somebody, but you can still send them more information. You might not have told them something, or their life instances, their life changes might change, you know, and so follow back up with people and keep in touch. And so also, you know, you don't have to get everyone. You know, everybody doesn't have to be in your business. You know, of course, everybody in any business that, especially in like network marketing or referral marketing, everybody says, you know, get in touch with your friends, your family. You know, you're usually going to sign up your mom, you know, but, you know, or your kids or whatever, your sister, your brother, you know, those are going to be a lot of times easy sales, especially if it's something that's a decent price and a good quality and things like that. But, you know, everybody doesn't have to be your prospect. You know, in my company, I have 2 sisters. Neither one of them are my customers or distributors. Yes, see? No. Doesn't matter. It's okay. Because there's lots of other people out in the sea, you know? So just go find you a new fish. Because there's some fishes that want that worm, you know? So you just got to find a different one. You got to find the people that are interested. Your job is to share it. It's not to sell it. You know, it doesn't matter what service you sell or what product you offer. You don't want to sell it. You just want to share it with people. Let them know what it is. Let them know the benefits about it, how it can help them. You know, different people have different needs too. So figure out what their needs are and how it can help them, and then just share it with them. Then the ball's in their part. It's their decision. It's their choice if they want to sign up with you or get your product or service. Your job is just to share it and let people know, and that's it. And also on that, you know, if you don't burn that bridge and you share it nicely with somebody, then even if they don't need your product or service, they might refer other people to you. So you don't want to, the same thing, you don't want to burn that bridge. You want to be able to just be nice and say thank you for that no. You know, thank you for your time. They didn't have to give you the 5 minutes or 2 hours or whatever you spent with them either. You know, so thank them for your time, for their time. And then keep in touch, of course. You know, electronics are great. Texting is great. Email is great. Faxes, I'm not sure if anybody does that anymore, but, you know, that's great too. But it's a quick way to get something to someone. But print is forever. People still love print. You know, one of the examples that I talk to people about all the time is, you know, for me personally, I love electronics. I would rather get an email. I would rather get a newsletter on email, PDF, something like that. You know, cards, I do want the real print. But like books, I get on Kindle. You know, I like everything digital like that. My mom, she likes it printed. She'll get an email, she'll get a newsletter, she'll print it out and hold it in her hands and read it, you know. So people like things to hold in their hands. So share the information that you have about your service or products with people. Give them something to hold in their hands. So if you have product samples, put it in their hands. Let them take it home and try it. If you have newsletters or magazines, put it in their hands. Let them take it home and look at it in their own time frame. You know, and if it's a more expensive newsletter or magazine, something like that, you know, you can tell people, hey, I only have 10 of these right now. You know, so I can't just give them out, but I'm going to let you borrow it if you promise me you're going to read it. Today's Monday, I need to get it back on Friday. Can you get it back to me by then? Can you have read it by then?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Could you say it one more time?
Let people know, especially like the company magazines, you know, a lot of those are kind of expensive. And I mean, if you gave them out everywhere, just say they're $5, right? $5 is not a big deal. But if you meet 100 people and you hand out that, that's kind of a lot of money. But, you know, how many times did you get something from somebody and you bring it home and you were really actually interested in reading it and you set it on your desk and then the bills come, that gets piled on top of it, and then other things happen, and so you actually meant to read it, but you didn't. How many times does that happen? Or like if you're on the internet, because you know you plan on going back to that webpage one day because you're really interested in that webpage. You know? So it happens out there. So if you give somebody, tell them, look, I only have a few of these. And you know, I need to get it back. I've got other people that want to read them. Even if you don't have people, you're going to have people, right?
Right.
So you want to plan to have people. So you need to get it back from them. So give them a deal. If it's Monday, ask them, you know, okay, can I meet you up on Friday and Thursday night? And ask them if they've read it yet and if they're ready for you to pick it up. And if they haven't, it's your choice if you want to let them keep it for a couple more days. But the same thing, you would want to say, you know, I've got other people that really want for another day or two, but I'm going to have to pick it up by Wednesday, okay? So can you have it read by Wednesday and let me know what you think? You know, so just follow up with them. Keep track. And then like, also you want to keep in touch with them as far as just keeping your name in front of their face, you know, so they remember you. The same thing like that favorites thing. You know, if the things all in your bookmarks popped up from your favorites, you know, once a month and said, hey, I'm here. Do you remember me? You wanted to come back to me. You know, you'd probably go back to them. But just think about, you know, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Both of those are multi-billion-dollar companies, right? But they still advertise, don't they? Why do they advertise? Because they know everybody in the world, they either like Pepsi products, they like Coke products, or they don't do sodas, right? But they still advertise because they know the more that their name is in front of your face, the more people are going to buy their products or tell other people about them. And so they still advertise because of that, and that's how they are multi-billion-dollar companies. So if you want to be a multi-billion-dollar company, keep your name in front of people's face so they remember you. And of course, also do good business. And then do something different. You know, the same thing everybody does, what you do, there's different people that do it, so you want to stand out from that crowd. You want to do something different. You know, like I said before, people don't just buy products. I mean, if they like your product, yeah, they can buy it from any Tom, Dick, or Harry online, right? But why should they buy from you? So you also want to show that great customer service, that keep in touch, that, you know, show them different things that they can do. Give them free tips. Like one of the things is like a window washer. I told this guy, you know, how many times you get your windows washed at your house a year? Once, maybe twice, right? And who really has phone books anymore? So, you know, so 6 months down the road, even if he came and did a really great job, great customer service, did a really great job, 6 months down the road, am I going to remember who it was? Am I going to remember where I put his business card, even if I had planned to keep it? But if he keeps in touch with me and sends me something in the mail once every couple months, then I'm going to remember him. And I'm going to also remember him to refer him to my neighbors and other people around me, saying, this guy did such a great job, you know? And so keep in touch with people, stand out above the crowd. Also, give them free tips. You know, so like if you sell a beauty product for your face, you know, well, give some people other tips that they can use that are free. You know, if they're interested in having a cuter, younger looking face or prettier skin, you know, they're probably interested in that in other areas also. Give them some free natural hair tips. Give them, you know, give them some tips like drinking more water and adding real lemon to your water is going to help your immune system, but it is also going to make your skin nice and pretty on top of using our product. You know, but so different things, tips, you know, add more fruits and vegetables to your diet, you know, so other things, if people are wanting stuff in one area, then they give them some tips that are free that are going to help them in other areas as well. And so then also, so my final thought is I'm going to leave you with a quote. One of my favorite speakers is Dr. Maya Angelou. And she says, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So always remember that. So from Laurie Delk, send out happiness to the world and make people feel special and important. Because you never know that one thing that you say or send to them, how it's going to make a difference for good in their life.
All right, can I add a few questions? For those of you who just got in, or what you need to know is Laurie is basically the equivalent of Mark and Tammy Smith, okay, at another company. So what, yeah. This is a good shop to ask questions, and this is probably the most practical. I know on personal development Mondays we usually don't quite go into these details on the practical, but I'd like to, if you don't mind. One of the things Chip Wilson always tells us is the people to watch out for are the ones who get there early and the ones who are staying there late, right? Who get in there beforehand and stay afterwards. Well, Laurie was the, Jeff and I and Jason got here to set up, and then Laurie was the next person in the room. So I've watched Laurie work a room. The difference is, like when we were here for Project AK-47, I think you met every single person that was here and left with everything. Would you mind sharing, I mean, you saw what happened. People came in. No one came up to you, right? Can you give an example of what you do when you're at, like,
say for March 15th when you get invited, which this is on film, so you'll know. You're being invited for the project Patrick's Everyday Warriors with Aaron and Keith. You walk in the room, there's people there. What do you do? How do you approach folks? Because this is true for, it doesn't matter whether you're network marketing, whether you're an MLM, or whether you're doing Kung Fu or whatever it is. You don't get business if you keep your mouth closed. You want to be a singer, you want to go do whatever else, right? You're not going to get business unless you talk to people. So would you mind sharing a little bit about what you do or how you walk up to people? Or?
Well, when you walk up to people, just when you walk into a room, you want to make people feel warm and inviting. You want to be warm and inviting. You don't want to walk up into a group of 3 people that are talking and just start taking over the conversation. But on that same note, you can walk up to 3 people that are talking and listen intently and hear what people are saying and get their vibes, and it's automatically your vibes and your ambiance is going to come across to them. And if you don't go into a meeting with, oh my gosh, I got to get 50 business cards, I have to get everybody's name, I've got to make my list. If you don't do that, then it's going to happen naturally and easily. You just walk in, you meet people. And yes, you can ask people what do they do. And you know what? One of the best things you can do is when they ask you what do you do, don't tell them. Don't ignore their question, but just kind of mention something, but then go on to something else and ask them a question back. So it keeps them about them, because the same thing, it makes them feel important. If you really want to meet them for a one-on-one later and tell them about your business, that's okay. But in networking events where there's 20, 30, 100 people in the room, if all you do is plan on your focus of meeting a few different people in the room and finding out about them, that is going to make your business excel more, because you're going to look more respectable to everybody in there as well, and they're going to look up and admire you because you're not throwing up all over them like, oh, I have to tell you about this and this and this and this is what I do and this is how I do it, and here's my business card, throw it in their pocket, Don't do all that. You can ask for their business card and you can follow up with them later. But at a networking event, that's not the time for you to sell them. That's the time for you to find out about people and see if you connect. Some people, frankly, I wouldn't want to do business with. There's some people I don't connect with. And if I don't connect with them, I don't really care to do business with them. So you want to get to know people first. Like I said before, people buy you. They don't just buy your product or your service. Everybody does the same things in a different category or in the same category, different people. So why should I buy from Verna as opposed to from Sean? So the same thing, you want to connect people.
He does. He does. There's cupcakes on the dark side.
How many cookies?
No.
He's got some amazing cupcakes. I've tried the ladies' cupcakes, so they are good.
When you are going over, and first and foremost, I want to apologize to you, because when you came in this room, you were not greeted, well, we were stumbling around trying to set everything up. But at the same time, when folks came in, I was watching what I was going to do. Because a lot of the people in this room have never ever done network marketing, have never ever done any type of marketing. Now, for me it was a little bit of difference, because both from my old Taekwondo days and from attorney days, I would always have to, the way I got business was I met people, right? I don't know what you do, but a lot of times if I was at an event and I saw parents, I always went and talked to the parents about their kids to find out what sports they were in or things like that. And if someone was unruly, I might go talk to the parents too, because then I was like, you know what might help? It help mine, But the thing is, I don't go up and I do that. So I like the way you're saying in terms of, where to go with that. But we didn't give you that warm and fuzzy feel. And I wanted to see, what was going to happen. What I noticed was everyone went to the people they knew, right? So when you go to an event with your company, when you walk in the room, what do?
Well, I do acknowledge other people that I do know in the room, of
Right.
course.
Right.
You always want to do that. But yes, at especially big company events, you know, there's people there that you're not going to ever get the chance to meet again, except for at these type of events. And especially if you spend money to go there, whether it's sign-up fees, you know, to be at this convention, or flights, or cabs, or hotels, you know, or whatever. You want to make it your goal, the same thing, to meet different people and go up, introduce yourself to people, but also listen. The same thing, find a group of people that are talking and just go up and, you know, don't be rude, but listen and intensely listen and maybe get in on the conversation. But the same thing, how you go up is going to make the difference between whether they kind of, you know, close you off or whether they accept you. But you want to be very careful, you know, of sticking with your own crowd. You know, if you go to an event and you have a couple people on your team, or, you know, other leaders that you want to meet, of course you want to plan on meeting those leaders, but you also want to meet other people there, because you never know who you're going to meet. And you never know what leaders are there that you don't know who they are. Because a lot of people, you know, when I go to places, you know, I don't put a yellow Post-it note on my forehead saying, you know, this is who I am. Look at me, you know. I don't do that. And so you might not know who they are, you know. And one of the examples like with that I tell people is one of the guys that I signed up on my team several years ago. He's any of you that know football, he was in Super Bowl several years ago. The guy that with Joe Montana on the 49ers was the guy that protected him. You know, so I don't even know what it's called. That's how much I watch football. So, but anyway, you know, so when I met him, I didn't know who he was. You know, it wasn't one of those, or even like here in Nashville, you know, there's all the country music stars and everything. You know, like he's singing for us later. You know, if I met him in Kroger, I wouldn't know who he was. You know, and even if it was somebody who had a #1 label or, you know, whatever, I mean, I probably would not know them. I don't do TV, I don't do radio, you know, so I don't see a lot of people's faces unless it's on my Facebook page. So, but you never know who you're going to meet. And it doesn't matter, you know, if it's this guy who's a great singer and it's going to be wonderful and who knows what all he's done in the world, or if it's this guy who's an upcoming artist that, you know, but hasn't made it yet. And I don't know if you are or not, I'm just saying for an example. But still, you know, you want to treat everybody with that same respect and that same dignity, because you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know who they're going to be one day.
A good example, just off that, remember the story of Susan Ashton and how I met her.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
There's no way.
absolutely.
I met her at my storage unit to buy a used washer and dryer. I had no idea who she was. You know, she had 9 #1 hits in the 90s, and she then went ahead and also, I had no idea who she was. And then I'd be like, what'd you sing? But with that said, so when you go to a room, it's not like you're skipping. You go, basically, you make sure that you go around. I noticed do you start on one side and just kind of meander your way through?
Right, exactly. Yeah, talk to different people. Make sure that you've at least said something to everybody to make everybody feel welcome and comfortable. You know, you don't have to have a 20-minute conversation, but you can at least say something and acknowledge everybody that's there.
Is this helping my questions here? Because I can shut up. I don't do it frequently, but I can. All right, so let me follow up just real fast on that one. Now, switch the scenario, because I've done it with you. You're the host of the event, and people are coming in. what do you do?
But I still keep my focus on the person that I'm talking to.
A lot of people,
Right.
especially in a short amount of time. Do you have like a set spiel of what you do, of what you're going to say, or do you tailor each one based on each person you meet?
If she said don't do it.
Well,
She said, don't
no,
tell them.
I understand that, but she did, you have to tell them a little bit about yourself. You know, you can't just, hi, this is my name, and oh, back to you. You know, you got to tell them a little bit. Do you practice what you're going to
You
say?
answer a question with a question. That's one way to reflect.
Right. I usually do. I answer a question with a question. I want to keep my focus on them because I want to make them feel important. You know, what I do is not important. I mean, of course it is important, you know, but it's not. At that moment, it's not. At that moment, the important thing is them and me getting to know them and me making them feel special and important.
Do you know what that's called? Y'all who've trained with me before know what that is, right? You do it every time they come in the studio. Discovery. What you're talking about, what you do, is not relevant to that person, and you don't know what to say to make it relevant to that person because you don't know enough about them yet. So I've been on the receiving end of Laurie flipping the question around, and it was really funny because I think we asked 8 questions before one of us answered anything.
How do you bring
Well, it was a contest at that point. The thing is, but
I won.
yeah, she did. Freely admit it. But I think the other thing, part of that question, and I want to hear how you handle this. What I have learned is if they ask me, "And what do you do?" I don't tell them what I do, and this was actually part of something else. I tell them why I do it, and then so I give a sentence on why I do it, and then I ask them a question.
For example, what do you say? Hi, I'm Jan.
Depends on
What do you do?
when the person asks me what do I do. Well, usually at that point I've already asked a couple questions, so I've gotten a little bit of feedback. So this is where we can tailor it a little bit to each person, Jeff, like you were asking. And then what I'll do is I'll add in there, like for example, if I'm talking to Laurie, one of the things I'm going to say as well, you know, I did this. I mentioned my kids, and I immediately said, well, you know, I just love what I do because I get to spend so much more time with my child, and I'm able to work with my kid, and I'm able to do stuff. Come on in. It's a puzzle. You're only allowed to enter if you can figure out the puzzle. There you go. But what happens is, I'm sorry. Okay. What I do is I just deflect it. So I usually just give them a why, like, oh, well, you know, today was a rough day, so but it's great because I get to work with great people and I spend positive energy. We do a lot of personal development and a lot of self-work. You know, that, and I'll focus something along those lines. But it's always something else. Back when I taught martial arts, I would deflect that question. I still did the same thing. I still said a why. Because it doesn't matter whether you're selling skincare or cupcakes, or you're selling a service in martial arts, or you're selling yourself to go play an event. You know? What do you do?
Barista, musician, production.
That's the answer. Because the thing is, the reason I say that to you is because that's what I used to do, is to just try and figure it out, right? I always try to figure it out.
Questions. We're conditioned when somebody says, what do you do, to say what you do.
Well, if you're in your comfort zone, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that's how you get, if you feel comfortable talking to the person, you're doing it wrong. All right? Because the bottom line is, it's only when you step outside of your comfort zone that you'll be able to do stuff. Part of what, and I'm grateful that Michael Ricks is here, because let me explain, he remembers last week. I guarantee you he remembered last week, because part of what we talked about last night, we were chatting on Facebook at some ungodly hour about the game. And the thing about it was, we commented last week, our theme was, you make the switch here. This is the most important muscle you have. And if you make that switch here, you can do it. Was there a game yesterday? Or did someone decide that they won? Did they walk out, say, oh, heck no, not tonight. You know, I'm winning this, and there was never a chance for the other people to be there.
But wait. Don't you think in the very first play, that there was the mental thing that you're talking about.
Right.
Went off scale.
Correct.
Could never get back.
They never got it back.
Yeah.
It was already decided in that locker room before they stepped on the field, and then when that happened on that play, the other team went, "Oh, we can't do this."
Oh,
And you know what?
And that-
I didn't think it happened before. I thought it happened.
Oh, they announced.
At the miss of the first play, that's when he lost it.
Well, we were talking. They announced ahead of time that that's what they were going to do. They announced ahead of time. There was a coach. The coach came out and said, "We're just going to go out there," and that's what we were talking about. It's like they made the decision. He had them pumped and ready. Because what did we say? When it's time for performance, it's time for performance. You can't prepare anymore when the game's on. When they say shuck and tell you that you got to fight, the game's on. That's it.
And so think about that. When that happened, when that first play missed or whatever, and I did not watch the game, so forgive me if I say something wrong, but just on that note, from what you said, think about that. Yes, how many of those players, it probably went in their mind, you're not going to make it. What you tell yourself in your mind is so much more important even than what you do. So much more important. Think about, when you were little. Remember? Does everybody remember when they were little?
Jeff came out like
You
that.
started to walk. And remember when you tried to walk? And what happened? You fell down, right?
Right.
Did you say, "Oh man, this walking thing's too much. Why should I do it anymore? I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to sprawl everywhere. Who cares? I'm not set up to be a walker." You know?
Rejected.
Who would
See, I never crawled. It wasn't dignified enough. I did the boot scoot.
So with that, the same thing. As an adult, why do we put that mindset where if we have one fall, it's over? And we tell ourselves, "I can't do it. I'm not that good. I'm not good enough to be there. I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not good enough to earn this.
It's all those
I'm not
demons-
like them."
It's all those demons from the past that when you're older, when something like that happened, they all jump in. And when you're young, you don't have all those little demons, so you just get up and try again. And when you get older and older, you have this whole corral of past little cartoon characters, or little devil, right?
That's right. And as you get older, that's when it's so much more important for you to hide, edit, delete, change different friends and people you associate with. Because you only want to associate with people who are going to lift you higher. People that call me, that tell me, whatever, something that's going on in their life, that's, not a positive thing. Well, everybody has those things. Everybody has situations. Like Sean mentioned, February 2nd of last year, I was in an event for my company. I was on stage already teaching to a couple hundred people in the room. They had just announced all the speakers up on stage. I had my cell phone on the podium because I was going to be one of the first speakers. And I had that there so I could time myself because, when you have several speakers, you have a certain amount of time and you got to kind of stick to it. And my cell phone, of course, was on silent because of the meeting, but my husband's boss's name came across my cell phone that they were calling. And my husband's boss had never called my cell phone, ever. I had his number in my phone just for emergencies or whatever, just because my husband told me to put it in there one day. But that was it. He had never called me. So I knew it was something important. And so I mentioned to one of the other girls that were speaking, that were standing next to me, and I just whispered to her, "Cover for me, it's something urgent, I've got to take this call." Well, she knew that I wouldn't get off the stage in front of everybody after we just were announced and I was just fixing to start speaking, and the MC was just still doing a little bit of talking, that I wouldn't just walk off the stage if it wasn't major important. And so I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and made that phone call. And at the time, his boss just told me, your husband's been in a wreck, he's in very critical care, you need to call the hospital. And so I called the hospital, and I got transferred about 10 times, and then all of a sudden I hear, this is Dr. So-and-so. Anybody that knows anything, you don't ever talk to the doctor, right? You talk to all the peons at the hospital. So when the doctor got on the phone, I knew something was up. And he tried to tell me, you need to get here as quick as possible. Your husband's in critical condition. You need to get here as quick as possible. And at the time, I said, I'm in Knoxville. I'm speaking at an event in front of a few hundred people. The roads are ice. We had to get to our meeting that morning early before the snow started coming in because we knew that it was going to get bad. And Knoxville's 4 hours away. And with all the snow and ice, who knows how long it would take me to get there. I need to know, how urgent is it? Can I speak here and do my talk and do what I need to do my job, and come in a few hours? Or, you know what? And that's when he told me, Mrs. Delk, I need you to sit down. And so from that point on, things changed. I texted 2 of the girls that were speaking and told them they needed to excuse themselves. It was urgent. They needed to come see me in the bathroom. And I let them know what happened. Needless to say, I was unable to teach that day. The other girls covered for me and spoke what I was supposed to speak or whatever. They took me and put me in a back room to have privacy. And at that event, my 2 youngest children and my mother was with me. And it's funny because of all the speaking engagements I do, often, usually at least once or twice a month, on top of my networking luncheons, my mom hadn't gone with me to an event for years, but she was at this one with me. God knew, you know, because I wouldn't have made it. And so called my pastor, called my husband's mother, and had my pastor go and tell her in person, and, you know, told my children, and took care of things I had to take care of. And then drove home, all the way home. So, but with that, not to bring the downer, you feel the room. Yes, it was a tragic event in my life. It was a tragic event in my children's lives. But also, on that note, we know my husband is watching over us. He wants to see me succeed. He wants to see me grow. He wants to see me do well. He wants to see our children grow up and do well. And we want to show him and make an example of that name that he gave to us and prove it to be a good name and to do right and to do good. And God doesn't want to see us sulk and cry all the time either, you know, and it's okay to cry. I've cried lots. More than I ever have in my life, I think, in the last year. But, you know, the same thing. Everybody in the world is going to have things happen to them in some sort of fashion, in some way. The difference is how you handle it, how you react to it, what's your attitude about it, how you accept it. You know, if you can be, you know, I know other women, I've met lots of other women that have been in my situation over the last year. And I know lots that are always discouraged and always down, you know, and one of the things that I try to do is try to help people with that You know, I'm not a pro at it. It was a year yesterday. I'm definitely not a pro at it. But, like I said, I know, you know, that's not God's purpose for my life, to be all down and depressed all the time. God knew. God knew when it was going to happen and how it was going to happen and all that stuff a long time ago. And so I have to accept that. And I also need to keep on doing what my plan was and the goals that my husband and I had set out for each other and for our family, and make that Delk name something special and something spectacular, and that he's going to be proud of when he looks down, right?
Right.
And I just want to point out, with that being said, you know, you can imagine how that happened. That happened in the middle of the school year on top of that. Just to give you an idea of what a great mother she is. Her daughter yesterday, it was yesterday I think, right? Or was it today? Yesterday, she actually was able to catch up on all the schoolwork, and now she's a senior, and so she's probably going to graduate on time and everything else, even with all that other stuff that happened.
Wow.
So.
I homeschool my kids, so we did take some time off for things, and
And that means she's allowed to use duct tape. Just remember that. Okay.
I had a question. I had a question about, you were talking about, you know, if you're a guest at an event and you're, you know, you go through the room and you meet people, how do you do that without coming across as immature or something of the sort? How do you do it in a very professional manner, I guess, would be a better question.
well, in my opinion, being immature would be, you know, you three are standing there talking, right? Hi, I'm Laurie Delk. You know what? I do web and graphics design, and you know what? Let me see your website so I can look it over for you and give you a quote. Okay? Would that be okay with you?
Okay.
What'd you think about that?
Yeah, that was obnoxious, I guess you could say.
See, I can do that too. But you know, if I just kind of stroll up and, you know, you guys are talking and I just kind of stand here and, you know, I look each one of you in your eyes as you guys are talking and I'm listening. And then you say something about, you know, you had a baby last week, you know, and I say, oh wow, congratulations! What'd you have? Oh, I had a baby boy, you know, oh, congrats, you know, or you say, I have twins! You know, that'd be perfect for me. So then I pray for twins every time, but God just felt it sufficient for me to have one at a time 4 times. So, but you know, you just walk up but not in their face, but you can still walk up and just be polite and be around them and listen for what they're saying, and then just add a little bit. You know, you don't want to take over the conversation either, but just add a little bit here and there.
You know, it's interesting the way you did that. That was actually really a question that was very helpful, because I think for a lot of folks, they don't see the difference when people are talking, how to walk up to those that are talking. Because the other thing that happens is, just stand up for a second. The other thing that happens is the two of us are standing here talking, right? All of a sudden Laurie walks up. What's going to happen? I'm going to turn. At some point, I'm going to turn to her, and it's going to be my nature. Most people are going to say, oh, I'm Sean, who you are, right? So it's not that she didn't interrupt, she let us keep talking, but at the same time it shows you the transition that can actually take place when you do that. And the other thing that I wanted to ask Andrew is, you know, earlier you referred to if you're at a networking event, this is what you would do. But I have another question for you. Is there any event that's not a networking event?
No. If there's people there. If there's no people there, then that's not a networking
Funeral
event.
seems like a really bad time.
Well,
Funerals would be a bad time to try to drum up business.
Right.
But then again, every other event where there's people is a bad time to drum up business. So it depends on what you're doing.
Okay.
I have an example of a bad time. My sister's husband is the consummate salesperson, and I'll be nice. And he's tried to do many different things. He's on a venture right now. At church last Sunday, they have the pastor's ready room where only the pastors go. Well, he found his way in there, uninvited, to talk to the pastor about his business proposal. And the wife tried to say something to the husband, but he wasn't hearing it. So I said to her, I said, maybe he just needs to get embarrassed in order to stop the behavior. I don't know.
Well, the same thing at church, at my church, because the business I'm in, I've done it for 10 years. It'll be 10 years in August, okay? So everybody at my church pretty much knows what I do. I have never, ever mentioned it at church. If somebody asked me at church, hey, what is that you do, or that card thing, was that something that with your business? You know, I'll say, do you have an email, you know, or I'll call you later and we'll talk about it. I don't ever talk about it at church. That's not, you're at church for church.
I have friends at church. A lot of my friends are from church, being there over 20 years, and I invited them to my party, so you're not.
There's nothing wrong with that. Right. Because you're inviting them, and as long as you don't say, now if you say, hey, come on over to my house, I want to fix you dinner. It's going to be the 10 of us, and we're going to have just a nice dinner and girl talk. And then you do a business presentation, that's wrong. But if you mention, hey, I'm having this business presentation, and we're going to have dinner, and we're going to have goodies, and we can have some girl talk, and, you know, but I'm going to show this little thing that I'm doing also, and I'd love for you to come over. Would you mind coming over Friday night? Nothing wrong with that. You're letting people know, you're being upfront and honest about what it is, and you're letting people know. But of course you also want to make it fun too, because, you know, they want to come for a reason, not just for something, not just to watch a movie or whatever, right?
A lot of what you said also is about changing that perspective with respect to your mindset when you were doing all that. And I actually wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind commenting, if you teach this. I had an idea in mind, but what she was talking about is all of a sudden, you know, oh, this happens and suddenly it goes down, and how you regain it, maybe even put it in perspective of yesterday. How would you frame it?
Well, with anything, I mean, let's just start. It's all the same. I mean,
right.
You gotta understand, I mean, how you relate to somebody, we all come from the same stuff. All right. People get caught up in the illusion of what they think life is all about. We are not humans on the spirit journey. We're spirits on the human journey. All right. Now, it may be hard for you to grasp, but if you want to go up into the more esoteric type of arts, then you have to understand that. For one is, you know, your body's going to go right back to where it came from, and that's a fact. That's what's going to happen. So if you get caught up in things as greed, and greed is that you can have greed and not even get anything. I got to have 50 right now. That's greed, but you've got nothing. All right. So the relationships that you make throughout the day when we're talking, you know, if I cared nothing about what you've got going on, all right, if we're in this conversation. There's things real quick I can find out whether or not if this is going to be a potential student, or just a very few seconds, you know. But I have to look beyond that, and I go, well, you sought me for help. You're asking me questions, you know. Maybe this is a test. Maybe I'm being put for me to elevate to that next level, to that next vibration, because we're all vibrating. You know, this table, that's not solid. It's vibrating at a it appears to be solid. So if I can vibrate between it, I go through it. So the lowest vibration in life is shame. The highest is enlightenment. And when it hits dead center is acceptance. All right? That's where, you know, if the glass falls on the floor and it breaks, I can get mad and kick it and probably cut my foot. Now I've increased the problem. You know? Or I can go, this is how it is. Now I choose. I take control. I act before I react to how I'm going to respond to that. And the number one thing I tell anybody is listen, all right? And most people here with getting ready to respond, to say something back, I'm not really taking in, like I don't really, and caring is everything. Take a moment, you know? The biggest lesson I tell this to people, because as you start vibrating, you're going up and you see things different, everybody sees things at a certain level. You either drop down to it, which most people default to anger, or you go above it. Acceptance is above anger. If I'll just go there, I trump it. The top three vibrations are love, joy, and enlightenment. So I try to take it up to that part. And you smile with your whole body. Become attractive, and they'll come to you. You know, when I go over, when I want to speak to the pastor, I never interrupt him, ever. I never interrupt him. You talk 2 or 3. But I'll walk over where there's a chair nearby. He can see me, and I'll sit down, just like this, and I'll just look at this for a few minutes, and I'll sit there, and I won't move. And I start radiating that smile. Just a few minutes, he'll come over to me. You know, if you run up on somebody, like you did fast, well, that's chasing. Immediately going to run away. You know, there's nothing inviting about that. You're wanting something to get off me. What do you want, you know? But it's when you turn it around, what can I do for you?
Now, for those that were here last week, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Because I actually, and the thing about this is knowing his martial arts background and how he teaches it, that's how I learned it. Okay? Different style, different stuff, but that was what was taught to us, down to the same thing. And what's interesting to me is, what did I do? Who remembers, what did I just do?
Last week.
Well, no, but what did I just do by asking him that question? And I was using a third-party tool because you guys never listen to me. So the idea here is, which is evidenced by the fact that I did it last week too. No, but the thing is, he's able to say it. And what I thought was so great about this is he's not doing, and he's not in it anymore now. He's not doing that stuff. So the thing is, he's able to connect with exactly the types of things that we were talking about. It doesn't matter what situation it is. It's just about how we're going to go forward and what we're going to do with it.
Well, ultimately, it's life skills. Are you selling a product that you care about what this product may be able to do for you? Honestly. I have Intramax at the school. I did a 5-year study on vitamins. The best I found to a certain point was Juice Plus. I found one better than that Intramax, but you have to be licensed, you have to have a healing room, which we do at school, to be able to serve it, because it's concentrated, and so if you did too much, it would be very harmful. But it's amazing for what it is. But, you know, vitamins, that you can't just take a vitamin. It's got to come from a whole food. You know, vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and enzymes. You've got to have those 4 or it's garbage. So the more and more you learn about something, I personally take it every day. And I will never stop taking it. So the fact is that I stand on it so firm. Who in here is kind of interested now from what I just said? Everybody's hands together, and they're looking. They ain't raised their hands until they're like, what do you say about the vitamins you got to have? All right? So it's the same thing. The care, it's life skills. And if you don't care, it's going to show. And nobody wants to be around anybody. Let me ask you a question. Now, more prayers go down in hospitals, in churches, whatever being in real, humble, you know, prayers. So why is that? Because that's game time. That's go time. When you're in trouble, all right, it's rarely the pastor's the first person you call. All right, it's that best friend you can tell everything to, because that's when the truth comes out. And after you settle out, then you call a pastor, right? Because you're afraid that level might get looked at a little bit because of that level of respect. He's just as human, all right? She's just as human as anybody else. Nobody wants their dirty laundry thrown out on the floor, you know, period. So how do we do? We lift everybody up, all right? It's not about me. That game, all right, let's get back to the game last night. That game, they were a team. I was sitting watching this Peyton is no dummy whatsoever. And that look on his face after it started happening, you can see because he's looking for an out. He's looking for a way to pull this back in. He can't find it because they are smothering him. And every time he goes to make a move, if he ever gets that ball, did you see how hard they were hitting the guys that had it? All right, why? There's no need for that. Why? It's because after they're hit like that 2 or 3 times, he can't hardly pull his arms up anymore. His body can't even move anymore. So they're tearing the walls down to get to the brains. They know where the brains is at. All right. So it was executed beautifully. I'm not sure if the other guys were a little more hungry. You know, maybe something different. But somebody wanted it bad enough last night. Whoever wants it bad enough is going to get it.
Right, exactly. There's also, like I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head now, but there was an Olympic runner, and it was a black guy that he wanted to run, and he wanted to run the 4-minute mile, and it had never been done years ago before. Nobody had ever done it. And he was like, I'm going to do it. And it was like, I don't know, almost a full minute. And if you just think about that, almost a full minute, that's that doesn't sound very long, but when you're running really fast, you know, that's a long time. And nobody had ever done it before. Doctors and scientists told him, you can't do it. He said, I'm going to do it. He put it in his pocket on an index card. Put it in his pocket. He read it to himself a few times a day. I am running the 4-minute mile. I am running the 4-minute mile. I am running the 4-minute mile. Guess what? Not long after that, he ran that 4-minute mile. Go home and Google it, you'll find it.
Jesse Owen?
No, that's not the name. Roger Bannister, that's who it was.
Roger Bannister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone have any other questions for Laurie?
I have a question. Okay.
The answer's 32. Anyone else?
About, I'm, a brand partner with Miriam, and I've not done sales or anything like that before. I come from the healing arts. I come from a very respectful, kind of softer way of getting to know people more on an intimate level, just like you were displaying and everything. I totally dig that. That's my style. But when I'm around other brand partners at these big events, at resorts and convention centers, and they have their hair on fire, what is really the typical etiquette that is supposed to be happening when you're prospecting at these events? And because it rubs me the wrong way. It's very embarrassing when you're in elevators and people are throwing up on you, or every time you sit down to order food, they're attacking the waiter. What is the etiquette? I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's frankly embarrassing.
Right, exactly, yes, you're totally right there. One, I always teach my kids, you can learn something from everything in life. There's always things to be learning, even if it's how to not do things in the future, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You think about, pretend this room, we've got 1,000 people in here, right? Hi, everybody. And we've got this poor waiter that comes in, and every single person in here is a network marketer, and everybody's on different teams, right? How is that waiter going to be at the end of the day?
I can tell you as a server for 15 years.
I can tell you what the bartender last week thought.
And the thing is, depending on how if you're talking to that waiter for just a few minutes, are they going to sign up with you on that spot? Are they going to quit their job and leave everything behind and follow you? So that's not going to happen, right? And you don't have an hour to sit there and talk to them, right? And you're not supposed to throw up on them, right?
They talk to them through the whole meal, and it's kind of not a good meal.
Right. Well, and there's a difference between talking to people and finding out about them.
Right.
Hey, oh, so you're Joe. You're my waiter. Oh, what else do you do? Are you married? Do you have kids? There's different things. If you want to talk to the waiter, you can. But the same thing, find out about them. Don't tell them everything that you do.
Well, what's the etiquette amongst the other people that are in your order, that are other brand partners?